Hi guys, so today I want to talk to you about technique. So I want you all to concentrate on perfecting technique first before you push yourself with weight in exercises. There is a numerous amount of reasons for this, okay? So let's talk about them. So number one, the biggest one, it prevents injury. The last thing you want to do is injure yourself in a program that you do, because this is going to prevent you from doing the program, and nobody wants to be injured. So we need to take time out to actually learn how to do the exercise safely to prevent any injuries. Really, really important. Number two, use the correct muscles. So the last thing we want to be doing is an exercise that works our glutes and we're not using our glutes. We're using our quads instead. So we need to perfect technique to ensure that we're targeting the correct muscle whilst performing the exercise. Number three, it can increase your mobility. So if we are performing the exercises, for example, a squat, say that we can only get a little bit far down. If we're performing the exercise with good technique, it will increase your mobility on that exercise. And that's what we want to progress. And again, do it safely. 4, it can help prevent imbalances. Now, as humans, we naturally do have imbalances from just basically our life. For example, if you go shopping, you always carry your shopping in one hand. Mothers always carry their child on one hip. And things like that over a long period of time can cause imbalances. The last thing you want to do is cause further imbalances by doing bad technique. So, for example, if we are doing bad technique, we could be pushing up more on one side than the other because we are not doing it correctly, and that will cause more imbalances, again, which can cause injury in the future. 5, better overall performance. So the end game of doing a workout is to get the best performance. So eventually when we want to be pushing numbers, performing the best, getting the best workout we can, and we can only do that with good technique. So here is a graph that I have prepared, which shows you results and technique. So if you look at the bottom, this is technique. Now, the red is bad technique and results. So if we stay in the red, performing exercise at bad technique, this is the result you're going to get in a workout. We don't want to be there. Now, at the end is the black. Now, this is actually concentrating too hard on technique. So this is getting good technique and then being overcautious. So we get results, but not the results we want because we're too concentrating on results. So basically, we want to start here. We want to start off being overcautious, but then we want to get into the yellow. The yellow is good technique and pushing as hard as we can in our workout for the intensity. We do not want to stay in the red because this is where we're going to get injured. We're not going to be using the correct muscles, and we're not going to be performing well in our exercises. We want to start off in the black. So we want to start off concentrating on perfecting technique in the workouts. Make sure that squat is perfect, you're getting good depth, you're controlling it. And then once we are confident, we have got the technique, We then can go into the yellow and push ourselves. All right? This is where we're going to get strong. This is where we're going to get results. This is where we're going to see a difference in your physique. All right? But this is a long-term basis. You want to think long-term and consistency. Okay guys, so now we're going to go through 3 fundamental lower body movements. The first movement is the squat. So, with your squat, you should have your feet outside your hips. You don't want them too close, you don't want them too wide. So just outside your hips, you want your feet pointing slightly outwards so they're in line with your knees. So you don't want them too forward. Slightly outwards, because this will help you get a deeper squat, okay? So, once you're in this stance, your feet are slightly outwards, you're in position, you can then go into your squat. I want you to think driving down on your heels, not the front of your foot, okay? So, bring the hips back, drive down on your heels, track your knees out and aim to below parallel. Push through your heels, slowly and controlled, okay? So, hips back, down on your heels to just below parallel, and back up. If you have bad mobility, your squat might look something like this. And that's something that needs to be worked on, okay? Next is the hip hinge. So, hip hinge. You're going to start off with your feet, hip width, and feet facing forward, okay? Now, with the hip hinge, you want to keep a small bend in your knee. This doesn't need to move, okay? So you don't need to go into a squat. Small bend, and then that bend does not move, okay? All the movement is going to come from the hips. So, small bend, pin your shoulders back so you maintain a flat back throughout it. And what you're going to do is hinge at the hip. So you're going to push your bum back. So, push it back, shoulders forward, head in line with your spine. And then you should feel a pull down your hamstring, okay? If you bend your knees too much, you're going to feel it in your quads, okay? If you arch your back, you're not going to activate your posterior chain. So, small bend, shoulders pin back, push your bum back, shoulders over, keep that head in line with your spine, and you should feel a pull in your hamstring. If you're not feeling the pull in your hamstring, then you're doing it incorrect. Okay, next is the hip thrust movement. So, hip thrust movement, you're going to be on a bench, so you want to rest it just underneath your scaps, okay? Feet positioning, you want it just outside your hips, and again you want to track your knees outwards. Elbows always come off, and you always gaze forward. So what I don't want to see is this, okay? Once we're in this position, we're stuck in this position, okay? And it's the hips that's doing all the work again. So, you don't want your feet too far forward unless you're going to feel it more in your hamstrings. Don't want it too far back unless you're going to feel it more in your quads. Feet tracking underneath your knees. Gaze forward. And all I want you to think is a pelvic tilt. So the hips are doing the work. Again, you push through the heels so you don't go on your toes. So, drive up, squeeze, and you squeeze your glutes that hard that there's a nut in between your bum cheeks and you feel like you're cracking it. So, drive down and up. So, it's all your pelvic tilt. Again, I don't want to see this. Okay? And that's the 3 fundamental movements for lower body. Okay guys, so now we're going to go through some fundamental movements for upper body. First is the press up. So, most of you will not be able to do a press up yet. So, let's talk about a knee press up. So, what I don't want to see is this. Okay, so what you want to think about is straight line from your knees to your head, okay? nice and tight, because what you don't want to do is this, and then get a bad back. So squeeze the glutes, so ribs in, nice and tight, elbows track into your body, and then you will go down to a depth that's challenging to you. So even if it's only halfway, push back up. And then you can increase your range of motion as you build strength. So drive down. So what you don't want to do is end up going out and like this, just to get lower. So nice strong tight core, elbows into your body, drive down, and eventually you will get a better range of motion. Next, the row. So when you are rowing, what you want to think about is straight back. So a lot of us do this. Okay, we want to have our feet hip width apart, small bend, shoulders pin back. You're then going to get into position. So nice straight back. So always think proud chest, because when you do this, you're deactivating and that could cause injury again. So small bend, shoulders pin back, head down, and what you want to think, elbows into hips. So you bring your elbows back, squeeze, and then slowly back down. Elbows into hips, squeeze, and slowly back down. What you don't want to be doing is this, bring your elbows up. Okay, so that is the bent over roll. Next, when we are doing curls, we should always think proud chest. So, do you ever curve your chest in? Every rep you do, I want you to start thinking proud. So you own that rep. So shoulders pin back, elbows in, and then that's a curl. Okay, so a few tips there on technique for upper body. So remember, own the reps, be proud, and think technique.